Testing your application in the browser is one of the best ways to ensure that your entire application actually works, not just individual pieces. But historically, it has been very complicated to set up. That is, until now. Laravel Dusk is a first-party package provided by the Laravel team, which gives you a super nice way of interacting with a browser, usually headless, but it doesn't have to be headless, and it doesn't require Selenium server or anything like that. It uses Facebook's remote web driver, and so it's pretty lightweight compared to traditional browser testing, and Dusk is going to automate downloading the right Chrome binary for your system. And so what we're going to do is we're going to install Dusk here, and then we're going to generate a test, and then I'm going to walk you through some of the stuff that you can do with Dusk. Okay, I have a standard Laravel application set up here, and I'm going to require Laravel Dusk, but I am going to pass this dev flag here because I don't want this to end up in my production application. That would be a massive security risk, so I am going to pass devs to make sure that that doesn't happen. And then you'll notice we also get this PHP WebDriver, which is the thing I was talking about earlier from Facebook. Then what we're going to do is we're going to run PHP artisan dusk install, and we'll see what that does. There's the good stuff right there, downloading the Chrome driver binaries. So Dusk looked at my system, determined it was a Mac, determined what version of Chrome I have on my Mac, and then downloaded the Chrome driver binaries. So if we were to open, I think I might already have it open. If we were to go over to PHP Storm here, and we'll check the vendor Laravel Dusk, and come down here to the bin, we see, there you go. That is the Chrome driver that Laravel installed for me. If you find that this is the wrong one, I would be very surprised. And two, you can install your own, which we're not gonna do right now. What we are going to do right now is we're going to look at the test that was created for us, and then we're going to create our own test, and we'll dive into navigating around the page, copy pasting, selecting elements, all kinds of good stuff. Checking our tests directory, you'll see we have a new directory here named browser, and if we come down here, we'll see example test, and it looks pretty clean. So we call this browse, and we pass through a callable, and we ask for an instance of a browser, and then we get back an actual browser, and we can visit the homepage and assert that we see Laravel. Honestly, pretty useful test, because if your homepage doesn't load, something has gone terribly wrong. So I like having this test. Let's run this test. So we'll do PHP artisan, which I've aliased to AR. We're just going to run Dusk. And there you go. It opened a browser, presumably, and checked that. Well, that was kind of hard to see. So let's take a look at extends Dusk test case to see if we can turn off the headless browser part. So you'll see up here in the prepare, if we're not running in Sail, which is a Docker, lightweight Docker, it's going to start the Chrome driver. If you were using Selenium, this is where you would come in and you'd set up your own Chrome driver or Selenium server or whatever. I'm not using that, so we're just going to keep that there. Then you'll see down here, this is the driver which returns that remote web driver, which is PHP WebDriver here, and you see it is a Facebook thing. Thanks, Facebook. And down here, Headless has Headless disabled. So we want to turn Headless disabled on just for this test because I want to show you that it works. So coming in here to our env, we'll come all the way down to the bottom. Headless disabled is true, and if we were to run this again, oh, there it was. It kind of worked. We at least saw the browser. So let's come back over here and do the example test. We'll assert, and then we will sleep for, let's sleep for 3 seconds. And then we can pop back out here and see if we can actually see it work. There we go, loaded dusk.test. It sees Laravel and then it closes itself out. That's very cool to me, honestly. With very little time and very little effort, we are automating a Chrome browser and we're able to make assertions about it in our test case. Let's go ahead and make our own new test case instead of using the example one. But before we do, let's use a browser to navigate to bentonow.com and scroll down a little bit and look at that. Hey, who is that guy? Bento is the email service provider that I use for everything. If you've ever signed up for anything, by me, your email address is in Bento. Thank you for signing up. I love Bento primarily because it's an indie maker whose support is incredibly good. When I was launching high performance SQLite, I accidentally or on purpose ignored the help text in Bento. I sent too many emails too quickly and Gmail put us in the penalty box. I should have listened to Bento, but regardless, even though it was my fault, the founder reached out to me in the DMs and was like, hey, you messed up. He didn't say that, but here's some stuff you can do. He was helping me even though I made a huge mistake. So please go check out Bento. Tell Jesse that Aaron sent you. Now let's get back to writing our own registration test. Let's create our own test case and carry it a little further. So we'll say PHP artisan. I've aliased it to AR dusk make, and we'll do registration test. So hopping back here, registration test, you'll see it has filled it out with that stub, which is not exactly what we're after. If we were to say herd open and see what we're working with here, you'll see that is what we're working with. We have a registration page, and I kind of want to type some stuff. So let's see if we can figure out how to type some stuff. Over here, what was that URL? That URL was /register, which is good. You can say /register, and that's probably a good way to do it. Let's see what else is available. Visit route. Route is kind of cool. So you can pass through a Laravel route that you want to visit, and it will determine the URL for you. We're not going to do that right now. So we're going to visit register, and then let's just add this at the bottom so we can see what we're doing as we do it. So we'll sleep for 5 seconds. We're going to come out here and we're going to delete the example test, close this down, and say AR dusk. So we visit the register page. That looks really good to me. Now let's type some stuff in. So let's say browser type. And we need to figure out what this field is. Now there are a couple different ways you can target a field on the page, or rather any element on the page. One way is you can add a special attribute. You can add a dusk attribute, and then inside of your dusk test, you can target it that way. We'll look at that in a second. When you're typing, by default, Laravel is going to look for an input with that name. Let's try that one because that seems a little bit more straightforward. If we look in the register.blade and we scroll up here, the name of the name field is name. Say name again. So coming back over here, we can say name is Aaron, and let's just run that and see if that works. So popping that open, oh, that worked, and it worked really quickly. In fact, it worked too quickly. That's not what a human would do. Let's try type slowly. Amazing the affordances that Dusk provides you. So looking at this, oh wow, that looks a lot more realistic. Does that matter? I don't know. Is it cool? Yeah, it's super cool. In fact, you can even, I think you can change if you pass through here. The default milliseconds are 100, but if you want to type slowly, you can pass 300 milliseconds in and you're good there. Now, so that is one way we can fill a form. Let's go ahead and do something else. Well, we don't need to be slow anymore. Let's type email as Aaron at example. You thought I was going to reveal it. I'm not revealing it this time. And let's see if that works. And boom, that works. Now, I want to try something. I don't want to type my email into the confirm email box. Honestly, this shouldn't even be there. That confirm email shouldn't even be there. You know what I want to do? I want to copy out of the email field and I want to paste into the confirm email field because that's what a user is probably going to do. And we want to make sure that that works. And we can do that using Dusk. Let me show you. To pull this off, we are going to go one level deeper. So we're going to go browser with keyboard and we're going to open up this callback and we're going to say, give me a keyboard. Give me a keyboard where I've got a little bit more control here. And I'm going to say keyboard type. And in here, I'm first going to check if we're on a Mac operating system by saying on Mac. Thanks. That's very cool that that exists. And if we are on a Mac, I'm going to say, all right, let's send a meta key. Otherwise, let's send a control key. So for all you Windows users out there, I got you. You're good. For Linux, I don't know. This probably works. I don't really know. All right, after that, we're going to send the A key. So we're going to select everything in the field. Let's just stop here for a second and see if that works. So, hey, look at that. That is pretty cool. All right, that's going to freak out because, oh, no, it didn't. I thought because I closed the browser, it was going to complain, but it did not care. Now, we're going to come up here and say, let's go ahead and copy everything in there. So this is going to be our copy function, and it will get a little bit nicer. I'm not going to lie. It will get a little bit nicer, so stay tuned. Next thing I need to do is I need to click into the email confirmation field. So I'm going to say click, but I can't just say email confirmation here because it's going to complain that it doesn't know, like it doesn't know how to find that, unable to locate element. That's fair. Let's take a look and see what it's called. It is called confirm email. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to use a CSS selector. So I'm going to say input where the name equals that. This is a place where you could add a Dusk selector, which I'll show you here in a second. So let's run this again and see if we get our click. Boom, we're in the right field, off to a good start. Let's go ahead and kill that and come back over here. If you wanted to, you could say on here, you could say Dusk equals email. I'm going to change the name a little bit so that we're not confused. So I'm just going to call this one email 2. If we come back here, now you have access to email 2 using this special @ sign. That is going to look in the there you go. That's going to look in the source for anything that has the Dusk attribute set to email 2. That can be a really, really nice way, especially if your CSS is changing and the targets are all over the place. That can be a really robust way to test these elements. That is how Laravel Nova does it. You'll see these Dusk attribute selectors littered basically everywhere. So now we're in the right spot, and let's copy this out and come down here. And instead of doing that, we'll just say, why don't you paste it in there? And I think this is gonna work. I think this is gonna work first shot. And boom. Look at that. So now we have discovered that we have low-level access to the control, and we can pass in any sort of modifier keys or anything like that. And we can do everything that you would normally do in a browser, which copy-paste. So when some product guy comes along and says, you need to disable paste for security, and somebody else does it, your test is going to say, nah, we don't do that here. We need to make sure that we're able to paste that in because that's how real users work. Let's clean it up just a little bit. Like most components in the Laravel ecosystem, the keyboard is macroable. So we can come over here and let's say keyboard macro, and we're going to call this copy all. And we can just paste that guy in there. And in fact, let's go ahead and pluck this one out. We're going to pluck that one out and make it its own copy. So if we pull this out and we come down here and make this copy, then that is the copy. We change both of these to this, and we'll return. So we're being good citizens here. So copy all is going to, in fact, that's wrong. We need to then copy. So we can return that. Copy all is going to select everything and then copy, and copy is just going to copy. And for good measure, let's put paste in here as well. And we can now clean all of this up. And in fact, let's make this a short closure because we don't have much to do here anymore. We can say keyboard copy all, and we'll come down here, get rid of you, and say keyboard paste. And with any luck, now it's a little bit cleaner and it still works, which is That's what we're after. All right, I'm going to burn through the rest of this test, and then I'm going to show you a test that I have fully written that opens 2 browsers at the same time and watches the interactions between the two. It's very cool, but let's finish this login test or this register test first. So just moving along really quickly, what I'm going to say is let's type into password ASDF, and let's type into the password confirmation field ASDF as well, and then let us press the button, which I have given a Dusk selector on, but I don't remember what I called it. Dusk equals register. So we're going to push the register button, and then we're going to assert that we see 8 characters on the page, because that is our password rule must be longer than 8 characters. So if we run this again, we should see it fill out the entire form. Password field must be at least 8 characters, and our test passed because that assertion was there. Now, if I show you this again with 8 characters, you'll see that the test failed because we just went ahead and registered. It failed asserting that false is true. So our assertion worked. Now, there are a lot of assertions in here. There are, dozens and dozens and dozens of assertions. I've got them all right here. We're not going to go over it. You can assert things about what is seen in the source. You can assert things about what you see in Vue.js or what route you're on. So if you have a successful registration, you do want to confirm that you have been redirected to the dashboard. So you can assert the URL. You can assert all kinds of stuff. It's incredibly powerful, and there are way too many to cover. But I want to show you a super cool test that opens 2 browsers side by side and clicks on some stuff and watches both of them. This is the page that we're going to be opening. This is Laravel Reverb, and if you click here, it does that little heart thing. In fact, if you click here, it does it in every browser that is on the page, and that is what I want to show you. So we're going to test somebody else's website. We're not even going to test our own deal. This is the test. So we have a reverb test, and let me walk you through it. You can open 2 browsers. You can open as many browsers as you want just by changing this function signature. So here I've opened 2 different browsers because we're going to open them and put them side by side. Just for giggles, I have resized and moved the browsers around so we can see both of them. Normally you're testing in a headless environment, so you're not going to do this, but hey, it makes better video to see the stuff happen. Then for both, we're going to visit Reverb. We're going to wait for the thing to show up in the browser, and then we're going to scroll that into Vue. Then we're going to sleep for 1 second, and then we're just going to run this arbitrary script. We're going to run this script and assert that the value is 5, meaning that is our starting point, and then we're going to do a bunch of stuff. We're going to sleep, and then we're going to click on the heart a bunch of times. So we're going to sleep, click, sleep, click, and then down finally at the bottom, notice all this is happening on browser 1. So browser 1 is the one doing all the clicks, and then in browser 2, we're going to say, hey, let's run that again, and let's just assert that it's greater than 5. Let's just make sure that hearts are showing up on both sides. Hopefully this works. All right, coming over here, we can clear that out, and instead of filter register, we're going to filter on reverb. So here we go. 2 browsers side by side, scrolling down. Click on the left, shows up on the right. Boom. There we go. That was awesome. That took me 45 minutes to do. We're going to watch it again. Let's run it again. Opens 2 browsers, boom, one on the left, one on the right, reverb, scroll, click on the left, shows up on the right, and our assertion's passed. It looks like our WebSockets are working. Stuff that happens in one browser is being sent to another browser. How cool is that? We have barely scratched the surface of Laravel Dusk. You can take screenshots and store them. You can rerun failures only. You can create page components. And so if you have a page where you're doing stuff often, you can create a component out of that that contains its own selectors and its own assertions. You can brute force log in using ID without having to go through the browser at all. There's a really special way that Dusk lets you authenticate that user. You can have separate environment files just for your Dusk tests. There's so much more that you can do. What are the reasons that you might not use Dusk? Well, it can be kind of finicky in CI to get Chrome up and running. If you're going to do that, I would recommend maybe looking at Chipper CI. They are built specifically for Laravel, and Dusk is just turnkey. You don't have to do anything. It should work in CI, but headless browsing is kind of finicky. You might not be doing browser tests. That would be a pretty good reason not to use Dusk. I would encourage you to do browser tests. It's going to test the entirety of the system and not just the components in isolation. So I find that pretty powerful. But you might not be using it, and that's fine. There is a way to use Dusk to just do scraping. You don't have to test. You can actually just scrape. I'm going to make a lot more videos about that because I've been wasting a lot of time doing that. If you want to see more what is Laravel videos, there's a whole playlist. I will pin one here about Laravel Octane, and until the next time, see ya.